Okay, so let's go ahead and continue this idea of our linear model, the relationship kind of between the y variable and the x variable in our equation y equals mx plus b. We know that the y represents some sort of quantity and so does the x. So we're kind of thinking of, okay, what two quantities are being measured? And once we figure out what those two quantities are, then we're kind of thinking, okay, which quantity depends on the other? Because we know that the dependent quantity is the y variable and the x variable represents the independent quantity. So think about those two things kind of as I go through this problem. So the Jones family wants to buy a cable package but is unsure which plan best suits their needs. Below is a list of cable plans that Cox offers. The installation cost is a one-time setup fee and the monthly cost reflects the cost of continued service. Assume the Jones family only wants to spend $500. Help them select the best plan by evaluating how much or how many months they can afford each plan. So if we only look at the essential plan, the Jones family has $500 to spend. So how many months will that $500 get them? Well, let's go ahead and kind of do some, math to figure this out. So we have $500. Now, in order to purchase this essential plan, we're going to have to pay right away this installation cost. It's a one-time fee, so we're only going to have to pay it one time. So we'll go ahead and subtract 65 from our 500 and we get 435. So we have $435 left after we get that cable box that Cox has to install in our house. So if we have to pay $45 a month, then how many months will $435 buy us? Well, one way I can figure this out is just by subtracting 45. So after 1 month, how much money will I have left over? Well, we can go ahead and subtract here. We get 3 carried right here. We get 13. So we got 5 minus 5 is 0. 13 minus 4 is 9. Bring down the 3. So we've got $390 after 1 month. And we can continue this process of subtracting 45 until we can't subtract 45 anymore, right? Well, that process is going to kind of take us a long time. We know that we have $435, and we know that it's $45 a month. So what we can do to figure this out is just kind of divide 45 into 435 and see how many times it goes, right? So I'm going to go ahead and use a calculator to do this, and what I end up getting is 9.666 repeated all the way, right? And so what this means to me is that $45 goes in, or 45 goes into 435 9 times. So if 45 goes in 9 times, at least 9 times, then that means that I can afford at least 9 months, or in this case, the Jones family can afford 9 months. So we know that $500 is going to be able to afford them 9 months of cable. And I kind of want to show you how I can use this information and this model to make this a lot easier. Things that I know, when I look at these two columns, I know that this represents only cost. It only talks about cost, and it's measuring that cost in dollars. This column right here is not only measuring cost, but is also measuring months. So it's measuring cost, but is measuring time. Well, so I've got my two quantities now, two quantities that we're trying to figure out. So which of these two quantities depends on each other? Does the amount of time I have cable depend on the cost, or does the cost depend on cable? Well, the cable company charges me based on how many months I have cable, so the cost depends on the time. So I know that X represents time and that Y represents cost. And because I know that this M represents my rate, or my comparison, or relationship between the change in two of the quantities, I know that this 45 is my M, and because I know that this represents the initial value, or the initial, in this case, cost, I know that this 65 represents my B. So I can go ahead and set up this equation: y equals 45x plus B. 45x plus 65. And I also know another number. They gave me this number 500. This 500, does it refer to time? or does it refer to cost? Well, it's got a dollar sign in front, so I know that it refers to cost. So I can go ahead and put that 500 where my cost variable is. So if I put that 500 where my cost variable is, then I have 500 equals 45x plus 65. And I know that x equals or represents time, and it's measuring that time in months. So if I were to solve this equation, you can see the Jones family has $500, so after they pay the initial fee of 65, they have 435 left over. And if they have to pay $45 per month, how many months can they afford it? Well, if we divide 45 by 45, then we know that 435 divided by 45 is 9.666 equals 1x, which is the same thing as x. So it's the same number that I got when I did it mathematically in my head. So try to use this model as you solve for the preferred and the exclusive.